Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. I just announced my next live event for this Monday, Resting in the Great Silence. I announced these events on Facebook and Patreon, so if you want to be notified when the registration links go live for my Zoom events, for my Zoom gatherings, you can join either the Facebook community or the Patreon community. And you don't have to be a paid member of the Patreon community to receive those registration notifications for when those events go live. So either way, both communities are free. And so if you want to be a part of those events, if you're seeking community, if you're seeking connecting to a group field, I'm going to be offering those. And yeah, and then there's also a link in both communities when I post about the event. There's a link to sign up, and it's really straightforward. All the events right now are donation based. You guys are so generous with your donations, and so that allows me to keep doing this, so where I can just say, yeah, it's donation based, and it just makes it easy for people to sign up. And yeah, I just love hosting the events and love seeing your guys' faces there, and just I appreciate your guys' presence so much at those gatherings. So I just wanted to announce that to get started. But today's video is about experiencing so much fear, terror, and anxiety. Can't hardly leave my home. Oh my gosh, yes. I remember this when Kundalini first activated. I'd be like laying in bed and my bed would be vibrating, and I'd be like, why is my bed vibrating? Like my bed would be like shaking up against the wall, and I'd be like, am I in that severe anxiety? Like, what is going on? And this is before I knew anything about Kundalini awakening, before I wanted to know anything about Kundalini awakening. At this point on my journey, when I was laying in bed and having so much energy and terror surging through my body, Kundalini awakening would have sounded science fiction to me, would have probably freaked me out more. It would have sounded so unreal to my capacity to understand things at that time. It would have been so beyond my comprehension, my mind's ability to comprehend. So, you know, I remember these times, and I remember just how overwhelming the terror, like one day would be like a terror surge, and then the next day would be like a darkness surge of like, oh my God, what realm am I in right now? I would look outside. I was living with my parents, and I would look outside my room's window, and it would just be like dark clouds and just ominous, and I'd be like, this is insane. Like I felt like I had entered some crazy realm, and I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have the framework for Kundalini at the time. I had to kind of ease myself into being ready to hear that truth. Like my psyche and my mind, like I had to go through a lot of layers of release and letting go of terror. And I had to go through a lot of surrendering, most of it very painful, before I was ready to hear anything about Kundalini and start to align with teachings about Kundalini and how to, you know, just how to kind of orient with the energy, and how to start letting the Kundalini live through me as me. But for a long time, what it was for me was I got in touch with these articles on calmdownmind.com. And they didn't necessarily talk about Kundalini, but the writer over there did a really good job. I think his name is Zen. He did a really good job at just talking about the practicalities of energetics. And he just made things very scientific and very just logical and grounded. And one of the things he talked about was anything that we allow to move through our system fully, doesn't have power over us anymore. It's only when we're resisting something. It's only when we're scared of an energy within us and we're repressing it or suppressing it, that's when it has power over us. And that's when it can feel overwhelming. And then Kundalini takes things to a whole nother level, right? And that's what this question even says. It says, this person's had anxiety for a while, but this is a whole other level, literally right on cue. And yes, but it's the fundamentals of the energetics are still the same. You're just playing this game at a max setting on the video game, right? It's like most people are playing it at like a 6 or a 7. You're playing it at like 100 when Kundalini wakes up. This game of feeling through and releasing energy. And so sometimes it just does feel downright overwhelming. And that's part of this path. That's one of the initiations we go through on this path is sometimes being overwhelmed by energy for a while, and just to have compassion for ourselves in those moments. And eventually, as this energy clears from your being, because that's what's happening. The Kundalini light is you could either say it's coming into your being or it's waking up in your being, and it's clearing out stuck energies. It's clearing out repressed fear. Repressed trauma. And so, yeah, that calm down mindset was really helpful for me because it just got me in touch with this inner kind of movement, you could say, of, okay, I'm just going to allow this fear to move. Like, I am big enough to allow this fear to flow. Fear, and one of my great teachers, Craig Holliday, said this. He said, fear is just energy that wants to move. And that's all this fear is. It just wants to move and release. And I would remember I'd be so scared to literally leave my room when I had to move back home and live with my parents because I was just like not functioning, in and out of the ER, like I was talking about in the last video, doctors, you name it, was calling psychics. Unfortunately, I didn't get in touch with like a psychic who knew about Kundalini. That would have been so nice. But yeah, I had to move back home. And I remember just being so scared I could barely even leave the bed. But after reading those articles, something kind of woke up in me where I was like, I can allow this energy to move. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna take every ounce of my being, every ounce of my awareness, but I can let this fear move. And I just started allowing the fear energy to move. And it would just start on walks. I would go on these walks and I would start to feel really scared about 2 or 3 blocks from home. I would be like, I'm feeling really scared right now. But I would just experiment with, in that moment, I'm gonna walk another 2 blocks. And as I walk those blocks, I'm gonna experiment with allowing myself to feel this fear, with allowing the fear to flow through me, but I'm still gonna keep walking. Even if the fear is gripping at me and saying, stop walking, don't go forward, I'm gonna walk another 2 blocks. And then I would walk another 2 blocks and I would feel a little bit more spacious. The fear would still be there and firing on all cylinders, but I would feel a little bit more of my power. Like, okay, I walked another 2 blocks. And then I would just keep walking and keep walking and keep walking. And eventually this fear just started to burn up. And I started to realize my power as a being. I started to realize like, oh, I'm bigger than this fear. I don't have to listen to this fear. I can feel it. I can let it move and course through my being, like I said, at max level on the video game. But ultimately, it doesn't have to dictate to me how I live my life anymore. And then before you know it, I had a job, a sales job. And I would go in and some mornings I would wake up with so much Kundalini raging, I would want to throw up. I would just like kind of roll out of bed and lay on the ground and be like, I don't know how I'm going to talk to people today, let alone sell them some furniture. I was working at a Lazy Boy in Texas. But I would just trust, and I would just trust that I'm powerful enough, that I'm big enough, that somehow the divine will get me through this day. That this is part of my learning right now, that actually going into this sales job is going to help me clear fear. It's going to help me realize the kind of like the great being I am, in a sense, not to be arrogant, but we're all great beings. We're all these great beings that are here to alchemize and transmute this fear. And I just knew like if I would go in, it was almost like I got to show myself every day. Like, I can do this. Like, I'm bigger than this fear. I'm the space that can hold this fear, that can transmute this fear. I'm not this fear. And there would be, oh my God, there would be so many difficult days at that job where I would just want to give up, and I would call my mom crying. Be like, I don't know why I'm opening to the fear. I'm letting it move, but it's just so much today. I don't know how to do this. And she would like bring me a milkshake or something, which would be super grounding. And yeah, and thanks Mom, thanks Dad for like being there for me during that time. Almost makes me want to cry, you know? It was just like, I was like in a sci-fi film, you know? I didn't even know what the hell was going on. At this time, by the time I had started working, I had found Victor Odo and Craig Holiday online. I think I had some idea. I think that this is Kundalini. I don't know if I was 100% set on that idea yet, that concept, but I think I had some type of knowledge about it. And so, you know, that job was just something that helped me kind of face my fears. And that's what you say here. I don't know if I should meditate more, or is it time to face my fears? It's always time to face our fears. Like, that's what we're here to do. And we can do it gradually, bit by bit. But I remember so many days I had to face that fear, like, oh my God, I had these mind projections and fears would come up of, I'm going to be feeling too much fear to talk to people, and I'm going to have a panic attack, or I'm going to freak out, or I'm just going to melt down. And, you know, and I had to just be okay with that happening. I had to be like, it's okay if I have a panic attack at work. Who cares? Like, I got my back, you know. It's like, I used it like kind of as a game. I started using it as a game. I started knowing in my being that every day I went into work and would feel terror coursing through my body as I was talking to people. I knew, I'm getting chills saying this, I knew in that moment, I'm releasing fear. I fucking knew it in every fiber of my being. I'm getting free of this fear so I can live a life I really want to live. So many chills. And I actually loved the life I was living after a while in Texas, living at home with my parents, selling at Lazy Boy, because after a while of releasing so much fear every day, I started to thrive there. I had never been so efficient with customers and sales in my life, and I'd been doing sales for a long time. I started releasing so much fear, I could be very authentic with people. I was real. I was in the moment with them because I was in Kundalini brain fog. I couldn't think. I couldn't plan the sale out if I wanted to. I had to be in the moment. And I just trusted the moment every day. I trusted my honesty and my authenticity. You know, I was as honest as I could be back then, is what I'll say. I trusted just the divine, and I actually had a lot more of it's kind of an enjoyable experience, and I was really liking that job, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do this forever. And then very suddenly, as I went through what I needed to go through during that time, as I cleared as much fear as I was meant to, God took that job and sent me out on the road, and I moved up north from Texas to Oregon, and that's when a whole new life birthed after a while. I went into the void for a long time after that job. I actually was living alone in Washington, then I was back to Oregon, and then I wrote my first blog on Kundalini Diaries. And then this kind of work started. But that was a time where I had to face my fear like every single day. And then I got to this point where I was thriving, and I felt very good at that job, and like good as in comfortable when I would go in, and I just got really in the groove there, and because every day that was my meditation every single day, of like, oh, I'm gonna go in and just notice how much fear is releasing from my being every single day. And it just got me feeling safe in the world again. And it was kind of beautiful. I had this job where I had to talk to strangers every day. But it was nice because they were coming to me. You know, they were coming into the store expecting to be approached. But it was nice to talk to new people every day because it got me grounded in my body again. And not even to like just the customers, but, you know, I had a manager who I ended up having a really kind of nice relationship with, other salespeople who I also had good relationships with I would say almost for the most part, or it was just a good place for me to kind of get rooted in the Kundalini process. Terrifying some days, like there would be so much Kundalini Shakti energy flowing through me. I would have to go sit in the back some days and just be like, just tell me when a customer comes in, I need to sit here and rest. And they'd be like, all right. And they'd be like, Matthew, you're up. And I'd be like, all right, here we go. And it would be amazing. A lot of times I'd be feeling so much terror, but when I'd connect with the customer, the terror would just start transmuting. And then other times I would just be so shaky the whole time through. And those times would be so frustrating, but they built strength. They showed me I can do this. And so I faced my fears there day in and day out. And then they started dissolving. And then I got so free. So it started with the walks, right? And then it started with the job. And then all of a sudden I was moving across the country. And then I was living alone. And then I was back in with, I would say a friend, partner, soulmate person. And then I got so free, I made a blog post. And then before you knew it, I posted a YouTube video. And then that's the path. It just kept moving, and me facing my fear. And that's the Kundalini path in a nutshell, is you facing your fears. So yes, face your fear. Know that, because when we face our fears, we realize we are not our fear. We are the space that is holding this whole alchemical process. So that's the video today. I hope that this helped. I hope my real life example kind of gave you some framework of maybe how you might be able to move with your fear in a really productive and empowered way. So I'm sending you all so much love. Thanks for your donations for these daily videos. Yeah, I would love to see you guys at the groups, the live Zoom groups, if those feel, aligned and guided for you to go to. But other than that, yeah, thanks for booking one-on-one sessions. Love seeing you guys, meeting with you guys in that way as well. But just sending you all so much love. See you in the next video. Namaste.